All right, Tuesday night Krug show. Raj in the house from RSF 49ers. Niners looking for an OC, a DC, a special teams coordinator. There's a lot going on in Niner land. And we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it all. We're going to hit it all right here. Let's go. All right, we get it rolling on the Krug Show. Tuesday night, Raj from RSF 49ers in the house, and we are fired up for him. And, of course, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week. Go get some brisket. Get some brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. You can reach him at 831-521-5264 for all your sports cards and collectible needs. And this live stream is also sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. We've done it a bunch. 6 times this year we won. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does sign up is automatically entered to win the free signed Ricky Pearsall red 14 49er jersey autographed by Ricky. We have it here in our possession, and we will be giving it away, or auctioning it off, I should say, or raffling it off during our postgame show on Super Bowl Sunday after Super Bowl 59 from the Big Easy. We won't be in the Big Easy, but the Super Bowl will be there, and we'll be on afterwards, and we'll give away the Ricky Pearsall jersey in that postgame show. So looking forward to that. Thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, we titled the stream Latest 49er News. Chris Tabor interview. Robert Saleh's likely out. Really? Brock Purdy and playoff quarterbacks, and, of course, the Chiefs are a dynasty, and we also have the week 1 of the NFL to get into. But, Raj, why don't we start with, and of course, Raj is here. RSF 49ers is a monster. They're huge on YouTube. They're big on Instagram. Raj is the man behind RSF 49ers. We're thrilled to have him with us. All right, before we get to the dynasty, let's talk about kind of the stories of the day in Ninerland. The first story of the day is that the 49ers interviewed ex-Carolina Panthers special team coordinator and their interim head coach, Chris Tabor, interviewed for the Niners special team job today. During his time in Carolina, Raj, Tabor's special teams unit ranked 5th in the NFL in special teams EPA. I don't know anything really about Chris Tabor. I don't know if you do, but what do you think? I like that ranking. I'll say this. I would love if the 49ers could have a top 5 special teams unit. I think that would be nice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anything is better than we've had out there. I mean, I said it a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the offseason and getting ready. I said they got to get rid of Brian Schneider. Thankfully, they did. But now it's a matter of getting the right guy to fill in the shoes. You can't just hire any geek off the street. And they brought in some good candidates. I looked into Tabor, and no relation to Tabor Pepper, but he is actually a long history of coaching in the NFL. He's been with the Browns, the Bears. He's been with the Panthers, as you stated. He's a pretty good, track record. So it's not like he's just this guy. So they're getting a guy with experience, and he's, had interim head coach experience. So I think that's a good start right there. If he can make this special teams a lot better than what we had, I'm fine. But they also looked into the Detroit Lions assistant special teams coach as well. And that guy could be a really good candidate because, the Detroit Lions are the best special teams arguably in the NFL. Not only that, he's 29 or 30, I think. He's very young. So you get a good, young, energetic coach, and, you promote him because he's
– Is that Chris Banjo? Is that his name?
I believe, let me pull up the name. I think it is Banjo. Chris Banjo. Yes, sir. That's the guy. So that could be another guy. I mean, he's been in the league also as a player, he's former DB. That was a special teams ace turned into a special teams coach. So he played 10 years in the league, and now he's, what did I say, 29? I meant 39. Sorry. So he's a young guy. And that's good energy, and it's a promotion for them. So regardless of who they get, I think they brought in some good candidates right now that can really improve what the 49ers had as special teams. Because, it doesn't get any worse than what the Niners did last year. It was bad. So either way, Krug, I'm happy with one of the guys they get, as long as they can improve the special teams. Because if they don't improve it, then it doesn't matter.
George Shammy says, how about John Fossil, Bones Fossil, for special teams? He was in Dallas with Mike McCarthy, but McCarthy's out, and Fossil's deal is run out. What do you think of getting John Fossil? Now, Fossil's interesting. It seems like he's a very top-tier special teams coach. He's been in L.A., he's been with Dallas, he's been around the league. What would you think? He's not a young guy. He's a guy that's kind of a proven. He's really near the top of the. I'm not saying he's Dave Taub, but he's in closer to Dave Taub than he is to like a first year guy or even a Brian Schneider. What do you think of the idea of Bones Fossil coming from Dallas?
People have thrown that one. And sorry, actually, let me go back. So Banjo was the Broncos assistant special teams coach. There was also the Lions special teams coordinator assistant. That's Jet Modkins. That's the other guy. So there
you go. Curtis Modkins' son, who was the Niners OC a few years ago, or
something like that.
Quarterback coach.
Chip Kelly. He was working under Chip Kelly, and so Jet Modkins, he's the Lions assistant. He's the young guy. But then the other guy, Chris Banjo. He's also young. He's 39, but he was the assistant special teams at the Broncos. But he's very young. He's the one that played in the league for 10 years as like a special teams ace. But either one of those two guys, I feel are really good because they're younger. Fossil, I wouldn't hate it. He's a good coach. He's been in the league for a long time. But I want a younger coach because I think you get a little bit more out of them. They're going to be more enthusiastic, and they got a lot of fresh energy, a lot of fresh ideas. So I'm kind of leaning towards that side of it. But regardless, again, Larry, whoever they get to coach the special teams, you just can't do the worst job than Brian Schneider. So either way, I think you'll upgrade. But I like the upside of a younger coach overall in this position.
Do you like the idea of going with an outsider or going with Nick Sorensen?
Oh God, please don't let it be Nick Sorensen. Like I just thought it was weird that Kyle says, "Oh, we want to keep him on the team and hire him as special teams coordinator." This, that, the other. Like I just feel like it's weird. Like you go in, you get demoted, you're gonna walk in that locker room knowing you used to be the DC. I just feel like it's weird energy. Get rid of Nick Sorensen from this team, please. Hopefully he's not back. If he is, Kyle's a very loyal guy, I guess. But I want any one of these outside choices. I want some new blood. Change it up a little bit because whatever has been happening hasn't been good enough to win a Super Bowl, Larry. So bring in some of this new blood. That's what I want.
The Niners made a very weird mistake. One that I'm really kind of shocked that they made. And that was they announced Clay Kubiak as the offensive coordinator before they had satisfied any of the stipulations that are involved in the Rooney Rule. And so then they had to backtrack, and everybody and their brother knows they're going to hire Clay Kubiak as their offensive coordinator. And now they had to go out and interview more guys. And sure enough, they interviewed Noah Pauley, who's currently the pass game coordinator at Iowa State. I guess he didn't overlap with Brock when he was there, but he did overlap with Trey Lance because he previously was at North Dakota State. This year he is Iowa State's pass game coordinator and wide receiver coach. He's in his second season coaching wide receivers. And he added the pass game coordinator to his duties this year. And before coaching wide receivers at Iowa State, he coached wide receivers at North Dakota State, and he coached Christian Watson when he was there at North Dakota State. But once again, and I bet you this guy did a virtual interview, so it's not like he had to get on a bird and fly out here. But it's sloppy and it looks bad. It looks bad. The rules. Shanahan and Lynch, they can't argue they don't know the rules. That's crazy. They know the rules. So how did they wind up not satisfying the Rooney Rule before naming Clay Kubiak? Now, it was a Dave Lombardi question in the presser. I don't want to blame Dave because Dave was innocently asking the question. It wasn't like he had some kind of an agenda, but it's almost like Kyle Shanahan heard the question from Dave in the presser and decided to, kind of reveal and be kind of transparent and be like, oh, we're going to hire Clay Kubiak. but they hadn't really done their due diligence or checked any of the proper boxes. It just makes the Niners look bad. And it makes Kyle kind of look bad. I mean, it's not heinous or anything, but it doesn't make them look good. It makes them look kind of unprofessional, kind of like they don't really believe in the true the spirit in the Rooney Rule. I don't know. The Niners actually probably, you could argue, take the lead in minority hiring practices in their organization, in their coaching staff, in their front office. Heck, Bill Walsh was the one that established the reach out program for young coaches, minority coaches to get more exposure, and he was a champion for that cause, and he obviously is synonymous with the Niners. But give me your thoughts on this. I mean, this to me was probably the most surprising thing thus far, that they named Clay Kubiak without interviewing any minority candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was silly. It's kind of embarrassing. It makes the Niners, like you said, look kind of silly. It makes them look unprofessional. So obviously there's the overtime rules that they didn't know in the Super Bowl, and now flash forward a year later, and it makes it look like you didn't know the rules of hiring a coach, which is kind of silly because they were just trying to promote from within. But regardless, you still have to go through the motions and, interview some candidates, which are not even going to get the job. So to me, the NFL's saying, you got to interview these guys for equal opportunity. But at the same time, they know they're not getting that job unless curveball comes and Kyle's like, oh, you know what? We are going to hire Paulie, as the OC. And then Clay Kubiak's caught off guard and he's like blindsided. But that's not going to happen. That'd be absolutely crazy. So it's just stupid that you make a team go through the motions if you're going to promote from within. And to me, like you said, okay, Kyle is just kind of revealing his, his hand and stuff. But to me, it should have been like, he should have known, okay, before I even say anything, I got to go through these, rules and regulations. He could have said, oh, you know what? We have a plan in place. Stay tuned. It'll happen. Something like that. But it's just silly, man. The NFL is wild sometimes, but at the same time, the Niners are wild sometimes. And it's just another example of not knowing the basic rules, and it makes the Niners look silly. But at the end of the day, Clay Kubiak's going to get his offensive coordinator position. I feel bad for these guys that have to go through an interview and then nothing happens. It's like, oh, thanks for talking to us. This is just for, satisfying the rules. Have a great time. But maybe Kyle can keep that connection and in the future hold him for another position or something. So, I mean, maybe they can build a connection and it can last for the future, because that's kind of what you do. You build your network. If Clay Kubiak leaves or something down the line, maybe they'll hire, some of the other guys that they're interviewing. But in the end of it right now, it just makes the Niners look silly.
And I can't believe that Shanahan didn't know the rule. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like an oversight on his part. Yeah. I'm sharing the screen here. Dov Kleiman is reporting. He says there's real buzz about Robert Saleh's chances of becoming the Jaguars' next head coach. Per Zach Blatt. Zach Rosenblatt is a senior writer for The Athletic who covers the Jets. And he has his own podcast, but he doesn't cover the Jaguars. So I'm not sure exactly why, but what do you think? If Saleh, who I think most people believe is the 49ers' first choice, if Saleh does become Jacksonville's head coach, who would you want as the defensive coordinator then?
I mean, I think at this point, based on the options that we know that the 49ers have interviewed, I think the best guy for the job would probably be Jeff Ulbrich. I mean, I feel like the Niners have wanted him. I think Kyle would get along with the guy. He knows the scheme. He coached a similar scheme out with the Jets. He knows Robert Saleh's system. So I feel like he'd probably be the best. I actually like the guy from the Saints, Dennis Allen. Yeah, I like him as a defensive coordinator. He's not a great head coach, but he's a really good defense coordinator. So I wouldn't hate either one of those two. The other two candidates, Deshae Townsend, I don't know enough about him, and he's DB coach. I feel like he would be an inexperienced DC, so I don't want another inexperienced DC. And then Brandon Staley, we know Brandon Staley. Please don't make him the DC. How
about Gus Bradley? You don't like Gus Bradley?
I don't hate him, but I don't know if he's been tied to the Niners. I'm just going off of the names that have been listed to the Niners so far, and I'm going through those. But Gus Bradley would actually be a good DC for the 49ers for sure. But if I had to pick one of those guys, and if Robert Saleh can't be, I guess I'll go with Jeff Ulbrich. But I just hope that Robert Saleh either turns down the job or the Jaguars say, you don't got the job, buddy. But he also has an interview with the Raiders. So I think we're crossing our fingers and kind of waiting for Robert Saleh's decision. Because I'm pretty sure last week when Saleh had his interview, Kyle said, here's the job. It's yours. Go do your interviews and let us know how they go. If they don't go well, the job is yours, Robert. I think that's how it went.
Anthony Merkovich says, Raj in the building. Yes. And we got this great one from Mr. Bacon and Eggs. Larry, love you scumbag, pig in a pickle, baby. All right, Mr. Bacon and Eggs, scumbag. I'll just take it. I'll just wear it. I won't bounce you. I won't get pissed. I won't get angry. I won't try to lash back out. I'll just say, hey, it's all in the name of jocularity. All right, Raj, what'd you think? One of the stories of the day is that somebody, who was it that wrote that the Niners ought to go for Sam Darnold and basically say goodbye to Brock Purdy. And the idea would be like, hey, you can now sign Sam Darnold as a free agent, and you can probably get Sam Darnold for Baker Mayfield type money. And then you can turn around and trade Brock Purdy to one of these quarterback needy teams for a haul of draft choices. You know, what some people actually claim they preferred Sam Darnold to Brock Purdy. Darnold played poorly. He had a couple turnovers. The Vikings got upset in the first round out in Arizona last night by the Rams. What's going to happen to Sam Darnold? Do the Vikings go back to J.J. McCarthy? Do they stay with Sam Darnold? If they go back to McCarthy, do they just let Sam Darnold walk in free agency? And if you're the Niners, if Brock asks for a lot, do you say, you know what? No, we're going to pivot. Well, we're going to go sign Sam Darnold and trade you, Brock. Seems dramatic to me, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I posted that last night. The receipt of Brian Baldinger saying, we got to flip Sam Darnold or flip Brock Purdy for Sam Darnold. I mean, a couple weeks ago, Twitter was a wild space when that whole day came about because, yeah, Brock was struggling. Sam Darnold was red hot, and everybody's riding the Sam Darnold wave. And I said it a couple weeks ago. I said it then. I said it a few weeks ago. I might have said it live with you on a stream a few weeks when we were discussing the upcoming playoff games. I said, Sam Darnold will show us who he really is. He will see the ghost. We're going to find out who the real Sam Darnold is. And the real Sam Darnold stood up last night. And I kept telling everybody, I said, Sam Darnold is who we thought he is, right? And he's never played in the playoffs. And all of a sudden, he got exposed. He got exposed against the Lions. And last night, the Rams, they sacked him 9 times. Unbelievable. This guy was a standing statue. And if I'm the Vikings, I saw what I needed to see. J.J. McCarthy is my future. I drafted him. Maybe you can bring Darnold as a backup. He showed that he could win games with that team, but you're not going anywhere with him in the playoffs. And I think teams figured him out pretty handedly after these last couple of weeks. So if I'm the Vikings, I drafted J.J. McCarthy. He's my starter. Maybe you can bridge him a little bit more with Darnold. You could keep him there as a backup, but they got some options. They got Danny Dimes also. But 49ers, they just proved that this whole weekend proved that Brock Purdy is their guy. Like his status went up to me overall with the way these quarterbacks play. They all laid an egg. Jordan Love, he's this highly paid quarterback. He didn't look great. I know he had the injuries, but it doesn't matter. You're getting paid $55 million. You need to go look like it. Justin Herbert, who I love, I still think he's better than Brock, but he went out and laid an egg, and he couldn't get the playoff win. And then Sam Darnold just wet the bed. So it looks good for Brock. I wouldn't trade him for Sam Darnold in a million different lifetimes. I wouldn't do it. And Sam Darnold, this man just watched his value of his contract plummet overnight. Like he probably would have got paid 45, 50 million crazily. It would have been paid that much. He'll be lucky to get $20 million at this $25 million. Nobody's paying Sam Darnold.
Does he stay there? Because I mean, they have JJ McCarthy, but he's a rookie. They also have Daniel Jones. I mean, does Sam stay there or does he go somewhere else? The Raiders maybe pay him. I mean, I'll say this. I've been very, very, very consistent when it comes to the 49er quarterbacks. I told you a long time ago, like literally May of his rookie year, that Brock Purdy was not a backup quarterback, that he was legit, that he was real. Okay. And I told you that I didn't like Sam Darnold. And, I didn't like Sam Darnold. I mean, I'm not a big Sam Darnold fan. Watched him a ton at SC. Turns it over. When he goes up against any kind of a team that can put any kind of pressure on him, he turns it over. Last night, there was one play that I said to myself, that is classic Sam Darnold. Do you know what play I'm referring to?
Was it the fumble, like that early fumble where he dropped it?
No, it was the third down play late in the game where Sam Darnold was like 3rd and 8, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know.
And Sam Darnold drops back to pass. Nobody's open. Holds the ball. Rush is starting to bear down on him. He's moving around a little bit. Nobody's open. Now the rush is getting close. Sam, you got to throw it away, right? You got to throw it away and go to 4th and 8. He takes a sack, and it turned into 4th and 25.
Yeah, I remember.
And Kevin O'Connell on the sideline was like, "What the fuck is going on?" You could see him. I mean, he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And it's that kind of a play. It's that kind of a mental bog down from a veteran quarterback who's been playing this position for years that I never liked Sam Darnold. I didn't believe in Sam Darnold last year. I didn't believe in Sam Darnold in the draft when he came out. Didn't believe in him that when the Niners signed him. Grew to kind of like him actually when he was a Niner, from the standpoint of he never played, and I talked to him a few times, and he was a good dude to talk to, and he was solid, and I really enjoyed our conversations. And he had a great year this year. In a much better situation with a better line, better weapons, better everything, better defense. But I still didn't buy into the Sam Darnold hype. And when the people that were bailing off of Brock this year for go get Sam Darnold, I was like, no. I'm not endorsing that. I don't care what Sam Darnold does this year. I'm not endorsing Sam Darnold. And sure enough, Sam Darnold gets into a big game with the season on the line, neutral site, wasn't on the road. And he just, he's fumbling, he's throwing interceptions, he's taking sacks that he should never have taken, and he just looked bad. He looked like he wasn't ready for that situation. So I don't care if you could get a great haul for Brock, and if Sam Darnold is more along the lines of the quarterback that played for the Vikings in the regular season than the guy who imploded against the Rams, I still don't care. I don't want Sam Darnold. I don't want an immobile quarterback anymore at any level of the NFL. I don't want an immobile quarterback. Mobility has gone from, wow, that's kind of unique, to, hey, you know what? That's really useful, to that's a requisite. You have to have a requisite amount of mobility to play quarterback in the NFL. I'll never, ever, ever want a quarterback that's a total Dan Marino statue in the pocket.
Yeah,
because it's too limiting. It's too limiting. You saw in that Green Bay game when Green Bay started putting pressure on Brandon Allen, you're like, run. And then you're like, after like a minute, you're like, wait a second. He can't run.
He can't run. And especially nowadays, the way the speed works with the NFL defensive, like, you got to give credit to the Rams defensive line. They knocked this draft out of the park. They got 2 great defensive linemen there that they're building upon. Fisk and Verse. You lose Aaron Donald, arguably one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time, and he kind of didn't lose a beat really with those 2 guys. So Darnold just stood in that pocket, like you said, held the ball. And what I think is going to happen with Darnold ultimately, I think the Vikings will say, "Hey, look, we want you to back to at least be the insurance for JJ, because JJ's coming off a major injury, and it's not guaranteed he's going to be a home run star in the league. So you kind of need that insurance." But I think Sam Darnold will try to parlay his success, because he did have a good season until it mattered most. I think there's going to be teams that take a flyer on him, like the Saints might throw him a job. The Titans, if they don't go and draft a quarterback early. The Raiders, there's definitely teams that would look into him and take him as a starter. The Giants, because not everybody's going to draft a quarterback early, and nobody maybe wants to risk it on some of these young quarterbacks this year, because there's not a lot of good quarterbacks. So I think Darnold did play himself to a starting job. I just don't think it's as much money as he thought he was going to get. And he does have the option of staying with the Vikings, because I think they do like him, but I don't think his value is as high as it was after wetting the bed these last 2 games. But ultimately, the league is the league, and if you show some decency, they'll pay you, and he'll get paid by one of these teams that are cursed with quarterbacks. The Browns, I don't know. There's gonna be a lot of teams that need a quarterback, so he'll have a job.
It's not a great quarterback draft. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's only really one quarterback that I'm absolutely convinced is going to be great, and that's Cam Ward. Cam Ward is going to be great.
You think so?
Other than that, yeah, I do. I really think Cam Ward's going to be great. I saw him at Wazoo. I saw him at Miami. I watched him a lot this year. You know, he's the closest I've seen to Lamar Jackson as far as not quite the runner, but as far as no fear at all of the defense, no fear in the pocket, no fear when he goes and scrambles. He runs with tremendous vision, tremendous poise. He's a big game guy. I mean, he's a playmaker. I love Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's really special. I think he's gonna be great. Shedeur Sanders, no. Jalen Milroe, no.
Oh, he's terrible.
Quinn Ewers, I like him a little. Jackson Dart, I like him a little. He's got a big arm. Will Howard, I don't love him, but he's big and he's fast. I like Riley Leonard a little bit, but there's not a great arm there. It's just not a great draft for quarterbacks. Some of these guys down the list might wind up being better. Donovan Smith from Houston, Brady Cook from Missouri. The Auburn quarterback is not bad, but it's not a great year for quarterbacks, which means that's good news for Sam Darnold, because he's a free agent and somebody's going to pay him. I don't know if they're going to pay him, more than $40 million, but somebody's going to pay him something, and he's going to be somebody's starting quarterback. So that's how I see it. Now, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. There was another topic today that I wanted to get your thoughts on, and that was Talanoa Hufanga, or the safety position.
Yeah.
So, the one thing, the Niners tackling, when I went and watched, I went and did my deep dive on the season, and I've got the NFL Plus, so I could go watch the All 22, and I just, I watched just a smattering of the All 22 over the weekend of different games throughout the season. And the one thing that keeps coming up is that the Niners are really not good as far as defending the run. And yet they have in Greenlaw and Warner, two of the best run defender linebackers in the entire sport. But Greenlaw didn't play this year. Warner played much of the year with a broken ankle, or at least a broken bone in his ankle. The 49er defensive tackles are no longer what they used to be. But the real issue that I'm seeing with the run defense is that the Niners safeties are terrible tacklers. Oh. And I'm looking at this, and it wasn't that long ago they had Jimmy Ward and Jaquaski Tart, and they could not intercept a pass, but they were great tacklers. I mean, they were like extra linebackers. But this is according to Sports Info Solutions, these stats. Jair Brown missed 18.3% of his tackle attempts. Oh, my God. Mustafa missed 19.3% of his tackle attempts. Hufanga, did you see this number, by the way?
Yeah, I didn't see this.
Okay. Talanoa Hufanga, who I love him, is a great dude. Mm-hmm. His missed tackle percentage was 28.3%.
Oh, wow.
So if you ask the Niners, I mean, here's my big concern. Wow. If you talk about Talanoa Hufanga around the Niners, Lynch, Shanahan, they talk about him in these hallowed terms like you're talking about Ed Reed or Ronnie Lott, and you're not. They're not. He's not that guy. And the perception of Hufanga is that he's spectacular. And the reality is far, far less than spectacular. That missed tackle percentage would even be higher if you counted the poor angles that he took at times where he whiffed and was nowhere around. Like on one of those Detroit touchdowns, or was it what game was it where he took the real bad angle? I think it was Detroit. He took a really bad angle, and the guy he took an inside angle, and the guy ran down the sideline and untouched for the touchdown.
But the Gibbs touchdown, I think it was. Yeah,
I think that was the Gibbs touchdown. So that doesn't count. That play doesn't count. That doesn't count as a missed tackle, and it most definitely was. So, it would be his missed tackle percentage would be even much higher if you counted the poor angles that he took. He wasn't targeted often in 2024, but he allowed a 90% reception rate to be completed and a passer rating of 106.3 when targeted. So, I mean, Hufanga allowed 62% of his yards to come after the catch. So not only is he taking bad angles, not only is he missing tackles, but he's giving up huge yards because he's out of position. So, and the article that I was reading today was like, hey, the goal at safety should be to maximize Malik Mustafa. And so I think it was Kyle Posey on Niners Nation who wrote this article, and he is suggesting that the Niners go after Harrison Smith in free agency. Now, his contract is void. He's gonna, he's officially a free agent. He's old. I mean, he's 36 next month. This isn't the long-term answer for the 49ers at free safety. But Harrison Smith's missed tackle percentage was a career high this year. It was 17.5%. Okay. That's nowhere close to 28.3%.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit better. And Harrison Smith had been below 14.4% as far as missed tackle percentage every season since 2015. So this is a really smart football player. Harrison Smith had 7 pass breakups this year. Only Renardo Green on the Niners had more pass breakups. Green was targeted 70 times. Harrison Smith was targeted 33 times. And they had a very similar, pass breakup percentage. So I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of building around Mustafa, but if you talk to the Niners and you mentioned Hufanga, it's like, oh, Hufanga's a special player. But that he misses tackles. He's not great in coverage. He almost has to play in a zone, in a kind of a cover 3 zone, because he's got to, he's much more valuable in the box than he is down the field. Like if you're going to go double high safety, and he's not a coverage player in that regard. He's more of an instinctive cover 3, box safety, where somebody else is covering the deep third and he's up in the line of scrimmage, reading the mesh point and trying to blow up the running play in the backfield. But I just think that Hufanga is a guy that they probably ought to pass on. I think they ought to go in a different direction. I know Jair hasn't been great, and I know Hufanga makes less mistakes than Jair, but Jair's much more of a hitter. I think he's a better coverage player. And I just don't think that you can have Brown and Malik Mustafa and Hufanga. I think you got to pick 2 of those guys, and the other guy's got to move. You either got to move off of Brown. You're not moving off of Malik. So you got to move off of Jair, or you got to move off of Talanoa. Which one do you want to move off of?
Well, not only that, but Talanoa, Brown and Mustafa are still under contract on a rookie deal. So, I mean, you're going to save money. And I love Hufanga. I think the Niners definitely fell in love with him because of that second year. He was all pro. He was compared to, Troy Polamalu. He had the instincts, and that he made up for the bad angles and the lack of speed because he had game speed and he has the great instincts. Oh, man. And it was amazing his second season. Like, we all thought he was going to return to that, stratosphere. That third year, he was starting to miss tackles at a high rate before the injury. You can see it. He just kind of regressed. He wasn't taking the angles, and he wasn't getting the instincts, and he just was missing. He was becoming a liability in coverage. And I think if the Niners bring him back, it has to be a 1-year small prove-it deal to say, hey, look, man, and we got other guys that we need to prioritize. Brock Purdy's got to get paid, et cetera, et cetera. You got Greenlaw, hopefully you bring back. Like, somebody's got to take a hit on free agency. They're going to lose some players, and it's unfortunately a business. So I think Hufanga is going to be one of those guys that doesn't come back. And to his, credit, I'll give him a benefit here. I know he did play with the club on his hand. He had the cast, but that probably didn't help his missed tackles. But he was missing tackles before all that. And he didn't have the speed before. He lost a little speed after the ACL injury. So, yeah, I think Hufanga is a guy that's become a liability. Unfortunately, I know he's a fan favorite. He's probably going to be one of those guys that is going to be moved upon. Just you got to get past him. And as bad as Jair Brown has been, he's still young. I feel like maybe he can kind of bounce back a little bit. Mustafa had a fantastic rookie season. I wouldn't hate going to sign a good veteran in free agency. They did it a few years ago with Deshaun Gibson, and they struck gold. There's some really good players in the draft. So to me, they got to get some speed in the safety department. They got to get a guy that's reliable in tackling, because that was one issue this season. I feel like Fred Warner just couldn't trust anybody out there, and he felt like he was doing it all on his own, and nobody was coming up and helping him. They'd miss tackles, and definitely was an issue with the run defense. So I think they'll move on from him. I think they can get us a nice veteran safety that's a little bit more reliable, or, just use the younger guys. But they definitely do have a lot of questions to answer this offseason, and one of them is going to be, do they feel like Hufanga is worth bringing around back for the team? I don't think that bringing back Talanoa Hufanga is a Super Bowl move. It's like, oh man, you don't bring Hufanga back, you're not winning a Super Bowl. Like, he's not that elite at this point in his career. It sucks. Like, because again, he is a fan favorite, but he's not the same player he was when he won that. When he was an All-Pro his second season. He's not the same guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, as I said, I love the guy. I think he's a tremendous guy. I really do. I've nothing but total admiration for Talanoa as a man, as a player. I've said it. I mean, he's the kind of guy that you, as a dad, dream that your daughter grows up and marries, right? Because he's just solid. He's just a solid core, great person. And he's just, I believe wholeheartedly in Talanoa. But when you start take off your hat as a human being and just start being a cold, cruel film analyst, he falls off some tackles in the run game. He's not a big hitter in the run game. He's more of an instinctive attack the mesh point, tackle you in the backfield kind of a guy. But he's not a big hitter, and at times he will out hit his body. He's got some injuries. He's not a great coverage player, so he doesn't run very fast. So I think he's a zone safety who's best in the box in the cover three. And if you're not going to run the cover three at a high clip, then I don't know that I would want him. So that's all I would say about him. Coach Scrapper 44 says, Larry, is Robert Saleh considered a minority candidate? Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's a minority candidate. All right, let's hit a couple of these starred chats. We got this one from Jedi. He says, LK, next time you see Lynch, pull him aside and get in his ass. Tell him he better stop whiffing. Thanks from the chat. I saw, John Lynch is probably got a temper. I don't think I'd ever want to piss off John Lynch. You know what I mean? I get the feeling that John's not the guy you want necessarily pissed, because I think he would probably be reasonable, but still, John's a big boy. Matt says, has anyone asked Lynch if they're changing something with their draft process last year? They knocked it out of the park after 3 dud years. We did kind of ask that question in a couple of different ways, and they like their process, but I don't think they've had a big change in their process, other than Peters left, right? Mm-hmm. And so that obviously was different. And maybe RJ Gillen and Tariq Ahmad may have had bigger opinions in the room, and maybe one of those guys is a star. I don't know, but whatever they did this last year, they ought to try to keep doing that again, because they had a pretty good draft overall, especially compared to what they did the 3 previous years. They can't afford to have another down year in the draft. I mean, they really have to have a great draft. If you want to have any chance of getting the Niners back in the Super Bowl mix, they got to do it in this draft. 49er _throwback says the Rams D-line is a great example of how the 49ers need to keep injecting young talent into that room through the draft. Young and are going to be scarier. Yeah, I mean, Fisk, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Kobe Turner. I mean, Les Snead rebuilt their defensive line in 1 year. Spent the money in free agency on the O-line, used the draft capital on the D-line, and improved both on the fly. So, Les Snead is a good GM. There's no question. I think he's a force. Chris Teal says Leonard Hankerson is our wide receivers coach. Do we keep him? Or do we go for Wes Welker since the Dolphins just fired him? I didn't know that. I didn't know Wes Welker was fired. I like Hank. He played at Miami. He's a tough guy, but I would definitely go to Wes Welker if I could go to Wes Welker. I think Wes Welker is a more experienced coach than Leonard Hankerson. So yeah, if I could go to Wes Welker, I think I would. I don't know if they will, but I think you could. Kev is thrown in here. Better. All right. It is time for Better. That's right. This live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does is automatically entered to win a free signed Ricky Pearsall red 14 jersey. We'll give that one away on Super Bowl Sunday. All right, let's go to our Better lineup and take a look. We can go with any game this weekend, Raj. I'll give you the choice. What game do you want to pick from?
Let's go, man. Game of the week. Buffalo, Baltimore. This determines the MVP. Let's go.
All right, Buffalo, Baltimore. Let's go Derrick Henry. Let's see Baltimore. Ooh. Baltimore's favored in this game by a single point on the road.
They should be.
So you've got 96.5 rush yards for Derrick Henry.
Oh, that's more. He's going to – if this is the thing to me. If the Baltimore Ravens are to win this game, it's because of King Henry. Like, he, to me, is the difference. And as long as he runs for 100 or just runs at a high clip, Ravens win this game. This is what separates the Ravens from the Bills. And I think both quarterbacks are fantastic. James Cook's a great running back, but Henry is on a mission. This guy was passed on by a lot of teams. They said he's washed. And he showed the world that he's not. And I think Henry's going to dominate, and I'd take the over.
That's an interesting one. Let's take a look for a second at Derrick Henry's game log. And let's just check exactly what he's done as far as carries this year. Let's see. So he had 26 carries against Pittsburgh.
Killed him.
And what's the number again?
I'm talking about yards. You said 96 yards.
Yeah, but I was looking for carry. Let me go back to the let's see here. I gotta call this back up. Okay, there it is. So it is how many rush attempts? Where is that? Yeah, 19. No, that's longest run. Rush attempts, 19.5. So let's see. How many times has he had 20 rush attempts this year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times.
It's a lot.
And he had 26 last week. I'm going to say they're going to ride him. Let's go with 20. I say he gets 20 rush attempts.
I'm going back to week 16. He had 24. Then against Houston, he had 27. And then against Cleveland, he had 20. And then last week, 20. They're riding Henry right now. I don't know.
Yeah. They've gone 24, 27, 20, and 26.
Crazy.
And they're going to try to run the heck out of it in this game. So I'm going to say over 20 for Derrick Henry. So there's one right there. Okay, let's go with another one. How about Curtis Samuel? Let's see Curtis Samuel. I think Curtis Samuel is give me that. Give me Curtis Samuel more than 11.5 receiving yards.
Okay.
He scored a touchdown last week. He's he's a veteran. He's got good speed. I'd say he has at least 20 yards receiving, at least.
He had a breaking game last week. Yeah. He did
but
nothing.
I think he'll carry over.
He did nothing all season. Okay.
No, I know, but they don't have a lot. And I think that all he needs is one catch for 2 catches, really. And that's it.
Well, that's the thing that to me. So if you're going to argue Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, you look at this Bills team and you're like, who's he throwing to? And he's putting up these numbers. So that's why I think Josh Allen is incredible and probably the MVP. But no disrespect to Lamar, because this guy's putting up video game numbers. It's insane. They're both hands down, unbelievable quarterbacks. I'm just going to be so fun. I'm just going to have a good time watching both these quarterbacks go at it.
Let's take a look at Rams Philly. I think that's going to be an interesting game. Yeah. So let's see Puka. Puka seems so unstoppable. 88.5 receiving yards. I like Puka with 8 receptions.
Wow. That's crazy.
You think that's too high?
I don't know. Philly defense good, I think. But if Puka goes off,
let's take a quick gander at Puka's game log and take a look at that. Let's see what it looks like. I kind of think Puka. Let's see. Puka, how many times this year did he have at least 8 catches? He had let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. He had over 8 catches.
Yeah.
He had 10 though. He was targeted 9 times against Minnesota, only caught 5.
Yeah.
He was targeted 14 times in the last game against Arizona, caught 10. Yeah. He's been targeted a lot. I mean, look at these targets.
I'm looking at
8, 14, 8, 9, 14, and 9. I like that. I'm gonna.
He gets a high volume. Yeah, you're right.
He's gonna get volume. Yeah. Give me Puka. Give me Puka Nacua.
Okay.
I like Puka. Let's see. What was it again? Let's go.
Let's go to
7.5. I think it's 7.5 receptions.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, let's go over 7.5 receptions. Is there one more you want to throw in the mix?
Let's go to the other games. Okay. Let's see. Kansas City, Houston. Let's take. Oh, actually, let's take a look at Kansas City, Houston. Yeah, let's see.
So you got Stroud, you got Mixon, you got Nico. Nico's their number 1 receiver. Mechie, Hutchinson, Robert Woods, Schultz. Let's see Nico. Oh wait, let's see.
Let's see what the Chiefs are rolling with.
Okay, Chiefs have Worthy.
Travis. Let's go Travis. Well-rested Travis Kelce in the playoffs. You know he comes to play in the playoffs, Larry.
You know what? This is a great one because this is perfect. I like Travis Kelce to have a big game here. Why? Because of Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. That Houston combo, those guys are the best. That's the best corner tandem. Those guys look great. Kamari Lassiter is amazing. Stingley's incredible. So those 2 guys are going to take the outside receivers. So that means it's going to be a big Travis Kelce day.
I think so.
So I like Travis Kelce. I like him 8 receptions. I like him 13.5 fantasy points. I like him 53 receiving yards. Which one you want?
I'll take the yards. I think it's going to be a big Travis day. I think you're going to get like 2 big throws to Kelce. He's going to eat them up. He said he's feeling 22. So I'm going to take Travis Kelce to go. In the playoffs, there's one thing you can count on there's 2 things you can count on with the Chiefs, the refs and Travis Kelce. Book it.
So we are going to go 4 for 4, and we how much do we wager? 20. Yeah. We wagered 20, and we get 10-1, so we can win $200. So this is what we have: Derrick Henry over 19.5 rush attempts. So he's got to get 20 rush attempts. Love that. Curtis Samuel just needs 12 receiving yards. Love that. Puka Nacua needs 8 receptions. Love that. And Travis Kelce needs 53 receiving yards. All 3 of those win. And we can cancel our entry with 28 more seconds left, but we're not going to.
And you know one thing about Kelce, he was playing Aziz Al-Shahir. He'll be matching up, but Aziz is dealing with a knee injury this week. So Chiefs always get bailed out by crazy injuries and stuff like that.
Once again, thanks to Better for being the sponsor of today's show. The live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does is automatically entered to win the free Ricky Pearsall signed red Niner jersey. We'll announce the winner on Super Bowl Sunday. New Orleans, Louisiana, the site of Super Bowl 59. All right. One of the topics that I went with today on the radio side was about um, basically, I was talking about there's a great article in the Athletic by Jeff Howe about how the Kansas City Chiefs are, in a lot of ways, Raj, kind of like the Patriots were when they had Tom Brady, in that they, were a team that that just dominated. And not only did they dominate, but like, after a while, teams that lost to the Patriots just started kind of like, okay, well, we can't beat them. Well, let's do something dramatic. And these teams start making bad decisions individually. And then all of a sudden you look up and the Patriots are still dominating. The Chiefs are going for a three-peat. And, it's amazing. Jeff Howe wrote this article, and he just basically mentions how Josh Allen has no rings. Lamar Jackson has no rings. Jalen Hurts has no rings. Brock Purdy has no rings. Kyle Shanahan has no rings. All these guys have no rings because the Chiefs have all the rings. 50 head coaches, not including interim head coaches, have lost their jobs since the Chiefs have been on this run. 24 GMs have been dumped. In the AFC West alone, the Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders have fired 7 head coaches and dumped 6 GMs since 2018. And here we are, 2025. Again, the Chiefs are the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're trying to go for the three-peat, first time in the history of the league. And if you look at what they've done, they've knocked Josh Allen out of the playoffs in 3 of the last 4 years. They beat Lamar Jackson in the AFC title game in Baltimore last year. They came back against Hurts and beat Philly in the Super Bowl. They came back against Purdy and beat the Niners in the Super Bowl. And they've got Mahomes, who's 15-3 in the playoffs. And he is dominated to such a degree, Raj, that the only quarterbacks in the NFL that are active that have won a Super Bowl are Stafford, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Joe Flacco. They're all old guys because Mahomes has won all the rings recently. Joe Burrow is the only quarterback not named Tom Brady who's actually beaten Mahomes in the playoffs. But they didn't even make the playoffs this year. And, it's funny. You think of how everybody's like, oh, Brock Purdy, he's replaceable in the Shanahan offense. But, if the Niners had made a single defensive stop in the last 4 series in last year's Super Bowl 58, Purdy walked off the field with the lead in the fourth quarter. He walked off the field in overtime with the lead. And both times Mahomes came back against the Niners' not very good defense. And so, like, if the Niners defense gets one stop, Purdy's a Super Bowl winner. If the Niners defense gets one stop or wins either 54 or 58, Kyle Shanahan's a Hall of Famer, and nobody's saying anything about, get rid of Kyle. So it's amazing how, the Chiefs, have just dominated. Here's a quote from an anonymous Patriots Super Bowl winning assistant coach talking about Kyle Shanahan. He said, within the coaches in the league, no one thinks any less of Kyle Shanahan. It's ludicrous to think they should get rid of him. Andy Reid had these same criticisms early in his career, and now he's clearly in the conversation for the best coach ever. Kyle Shanahan's criticisms are that he lost a couple of Super Bowls. Okay. Do you know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl? So, it is interesting. I mean, and Kyle's not the only guy who can't beat Andy Reid. Sean McDermott's 0-3, Harbaugh's 0-1, Tomlin's 0-1. Shanahan, McDermott, Harbaugh, and Tomlin are combined 0-7 against Tomlin in the playoffs. So, and then you look at some of these other teams that got close. Jacksonville was on the verge, and now, Doug Peterson's fired, and Trent Baalke's probably fired next. Cincinnati, Lou Anarumo was the coordinator that could stand up to Reid. Now he's been fired. The Bills are going to have another chance, but they haven't been able to climb the mountain. Miami didn't even make the playoffs. Houston lost to Kansas City in the playoffs a few years ago and then fired 3 coaches over the next 3 seasons. Tennessee battled 1 year. And then, they ultimately blew up their front office and coaching staff. And the Niners, 14 months after they lost Super Bowl 54, the Niners made their biggest crucial error by going all in on Trey Lance because they felt like they had to have a quarterback who matched up with Mahomes. Cleveland, had battled the Chiefs in 2020. They missed the playoffs in 2021 and then traded Baker Mayfield and acquired Deshaun Watson in what has to be considered the worst trade in the history of the NFL. The Eagles lost to the Chiefs last year and then went 2 years ago and then went one and done last year and fired their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. And then you look at the AFC West, the Chiefs have won 9 consecutive AFC West titles, 7 with Mahomes. Every other team in their division has a losing record in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's just like, and then you look at this, Raj, Mahomes is 29 and Andy Reid's 49 wins shy of Don Shula's record. So guess what? Reid's sticking around. Mahomes is in his prime and the Chiefs are on top. And I threw the question out to the audience and I'll throw it to you. What do the Niners do? How can the 49ers interrupt this Chiefs dynasty? How can the 49ers interrupt this dynasty, inject themselves back into it, and get their Super Bowl? Because when you hear Mahomes is 29 and that Reid, is trying to go for the Shula record and he's 49 wins shy, he's not getting those 49 wins. He's going to coach for at least 3 to 5 more years.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you ask Shanahan and Lynch what their plans are in the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to tell you that they're going to win the Super Bowl. And guess what? If they don't in that period of time, they might be both out, fired by Jed York. So I'll throw it to you. I've got an idea that I'll share with you. But if I said to you, how can the Niners disrupt the Chiefs dynasty? What do you say? How do you do it?
Other than hoping that Mahomes is not the quarterback, whatever reason, it's tough. And, I hate to sit here and agree. You read everything out there. You talked about all the dynasties that he broke and all the coaches and the quarterbacks he's beaten. Like, you can't argue the facts. Like, the Chiefs have been great. They've kind of taken over the Patriots as the new dynasty in the league. If they win a three-peat this year, which I hope they don't, I mean, you can't argue that they are a modern dynasty. Andy Reid, he was ridiculed for many years, just like Kyle. We all know it. Once he figured it out, now everybody's saying he's the greatest coach. So you really can't deny that unless there's a few things that happen. And I think the first one that has to happen, which could eventually, because he's such a good defensive coach, is Spags. If he becomes a head coach somewhere, then you can neutralize Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a fantastic coach, but if you take away his best defensive coach, his best coach on his roster, that guy might be able to beat Andy Reid, take him out of the playoffs, and the Niners don't have to worry about him, so you don't have to
hire Spags. You're saying hire Spags.
Not them hires, because they won't. I mean, they tried to last year. They didn't get it. So if somebody hires Spags as a head coach, because he's head coach candidate material, he's not going to go and be a DC. He's got a couple of interviews lined up to be a head coach. If he could take a head coach job, I think he could take down Andy Reid. Like, I think Spags eventually develop a team. He's got to get a team, in front of him. And I think he's a guy that can actually take out Andy Reid if he were to go head to head and coach his ass. And he can beat Andy Reid. And then there you go. You eliminate the Chiefs and the Niners can make the Super Bowl and then beat whoever else is in there.
Let me ask you a question I don't know the answer to, which is, could the Niners, if Robert Saleh got the Jacksonville job, let's just say, because Kev was saying that, looks good for Saleh in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just say he goes to Jacksonville. He gets that job. Could the Niners, could they even get Spags? Yeah. Or would they, could the Niners say, hey, Spags, we'll make you the defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, and we'll double your salary? Whatever. I don't know. There's no cap on what you pay your coaches. So let's just say the Niners could say, hey, we'll double your salary and we'll change your title from defensive coordinator. I think if they took, I don't think the Niners could take a defensive coordinator from the Chiefs and make him their defensive coordinator.
No.
I think if you made him the assistant head coach, I think you could.
Maybe.
And then if you could give him a sizable raise, which would be why he would do it, that might be the route I would go. I would try to hire Spags, and I would make him the assistant head coach to try to, make sure that Kansas City couldn't block it. And then I would pay him a shit ton of money because I can. And you have to lure him to leave Kansas City and leave Mahomes and leave Reed. But you could do it with money, right?
I don't think he leaves Kansas City where he has Mahomes and Andy Reid and all, the refs on his side and all that, all the greatness that Kansas City has right now. I hate to say it, but yes, Kansas City's top team. I don't think he leaves that situation to go play with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. No disrespect, I love my team, but
he says he loves Brock Purdy.
Okay, he's okay. He's
no, I know, but I mean,
I get it. He's not going to leave Patrick Mahomes to go coach Brock Purdy unless he's that psychotic and he wants to prove a point that he could be anybody with any coach, like with any quarterback. But I don't think he takes a lateral move to be a DC. I don't care how much you're not giving him
Greenbacks.
DC, you're not getting that much as a DC where he can go get a head coaching job. If any team really wanted him, they'd pony up the money to be a head coach. Because why would you be an assistant head coach, when you can actually be the head? Spags is good enough to be a coach for anybody in this league, Larry.
But nobody's hired him
because he doesn't want. He's got He's got the best defensive coordinator job in the NFL. Are you kidding me? Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl. He's sitting there with Andy Reid and Mahomes. The only way he's going is if someone gives him a lot of greenbacks, like you said. But as a head coach, there's no reason to go to another team and be their DC. He's got to
make to Kansas City.
I have. I like the barbecue.
Yeah, but come on, you want to live in Kansas City, Missouri?
No,
there's gigantic bugs.
Hey, Super Bowl.
I know nobody wants to live in California today, but still,
nice. Just
Northern California. If you could have seen how nice it was today.
It was nice today.
Today was nice.
It was a beautiful
day.
Today
was like springtime. It was amazing. It was like 70 degrees
nice.
almost.
No.
Okay. So what would be your solution to run with the Chiefs? Because the reality is, what do you think Shanahan and Lynch have as far as time? 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? They don't have, the one thing we know they don't have an endless amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. It's not endless. So it's finite. So Mahomes is 29 and Reed's going to coach for another 3 years. So how are the 49ers, when they're going with Nick Sorensen and Brian Schneider and they have Mahomes and you have Purdy and they have freaking Chris Jones and you have Jordan Elliott and they have, think about it. They have Xavier Worthy and Pacheco and Kelsey and all these guys. I'm not saying the Niners don't have good weapons. I'm just saying, how are you going to beat Kansas City? How?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think obviously part of what you just said was your answer is part of what you just said is improve the coaches around, Shanahan and Lynch. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Probably 2 to 3 years. I give them
And how do you do that? You got to overpay.
You got to overpay people. You got to overpay people and get some real deal coach. Like this offseason right now, we're witnessing it. They need to hire the right guys because if they don't hire the right guys again, they're not going to beat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar. The other one is if we want to sit here and throw hypotheticals out there, and I think Brock's going to be the quarterback. Obviously, he's the franchise. But if there was ever an opportunity to go get Joe Burrow, if they had if there was like an ability to get Joe Burrow, to me, that's how you could beat Patrick Mahomes. If you look at the NFC,
but Raj, you're the most grounded, sensible guy that I stream with. I could have swore 30 seconds ago you said they could trade for Joe Burrow.
They can't. I'm just saying. You asked me.
That's the solution to run with the Chiefs is trade for Joe Burrow.
Man, then you'll get that bad.
Could you imagine tomorrow the Niners have traded for Joe Burrow and he is now their guy? Okay, so you can't get Joe Burrow. Now I decided that that's not going to happen. You can't get Joe Burrow. So outside of trading for Joe Burrow, how would you beat the Chiefs? The Niners always say they love to say, you know what? We have a ball meeting every week. How about this, guys? Let's cancel our fucking ball meeting and let's have a meeting on how to beat the Chiefs.
They got to improve the O-line because we saw in the Super Bowl, O-line sold them on that. They still haven't addressed the edge rusher next to Bo. They've been trying, but they're not trying hard enough. You need to build that defensive line because you got to get in the trenches. I know everybody says you get to the quarterback, you put some pressure on Mahomes. They haven't been able to do it enough. I feel whenever the Niners play the Chiefs, like they just can't get to Mahomes, and he's like freelance. He's able to do whatever he wants to the Niners. So get a little bit more edge depth. Obviously, the coaches, like we said, get some better coaches that are going to put some pressure on them. That O-line is terrible. That O-line that the Niners had this year, they're not beating any team. They're not going to help this team beat any great team out there. So that's first and foremost. And yeah, you have to bring in some quality stars. Like we talked about the Rams earlier. They really hit on that draft, and they added some absolutely young stars to that D-line. The Niners need to do that. They need to get younger. They need to get better talent. You need to get some playmakers. Because I think they have good players on this team. We know Kittle and, they have some great stars, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, but they need some more young superstars to build because, okay, Patrick Mahomes is 29. He'll get older. You need to keep infusing this team with young talent. But to beat the Chiefs, you really have to be able to take down Patrick Mahomes, and that's easier said than done. And the only guy that you said, like you said, is able to do it was Burrow because he can go toe-to-toe and outduel him, with his ability. So unless Brock Purdy's doing that, I don't know if we can beat the Chiefs.
I think there's only one way to beat the Chiefs.
How is it?
It's not like you, hey, if you could just sign, there's not like one player out there that you could just be like, just sign this guy. Nope. It's not, it doesn't work that way. It's not the way football is. To me, the only route that I see to beating the Chiefs is to be disciplined. What is the hit rate on a draft choice?
No, you tell me.
I mean, I would say I would say it's 50-50.
Okay.
I would say it's 50-50. But I would say it's just 50-50, just people across the board. Now, obviously it's going to be higher for a first round draft choice, a hit rate than the 7th round draft choice, right? But in some ways, it's always 50-50 because you're either going to be a player or you're not. You're either going to make it or you're not. But and I know it's, the failure rate is greater on the lower picks than it is on the higher picks. But to me, what the Niners have to do is they have to trade back from 11 to 15. Trade back from 15 to 18. Okay. Trade back from 18 to 22. Wow. Trade back from 22 to 28. Wow. And those 4 trade backs, you need to pick up 7 or 8 more picks. And you got to draft 20 guys. And you're going to hit on some and you're going to miss on some. But the Niners have shown such a propensity to hit on their day 3 picks and their undrafted guys that tells me they got a good eye for talent. That means that somebody in that personnel department knows what the fuck they're doing. You don't just luck into good players after the draft. They didn't just luck into Evan Anderson. They knew that they should pay him $380,000 guaranteed. So somebody in that personnel staff or coaching staff said, you know what? This guy's good. We need him. Okay. So that to me would be my game plan. Trade back 3 or 4 times, wind up with 3 or 4 picks in the 3rd round, 4th round, and 5th round, and then see if you can hit. If all of a sudden you have this amazing draft, and you can hit on 70, 80%, 90% of your picks, and you draft 20 guys, you know what? That you can do it that way. What you have to do is you have to be willing to say goodbye to the automatic blue chipper. And let's be honest, the Niners have a terrible track record at being able to handicap the first couple rounds of the draft. They're not good at it. Dante Pettis tells me they're not good at it. Aaron Banks tells me they're not good at it. You name it. Trey Lance tells me they're not good at it. They have missed a lot. Solomon Thomas ain't it. Thank you, NB. Reuben Foster The Niners, Akello Witherspoon played well last night. He hadn't played well until last night. Javon Kinlaw, they've missed a lot at the top of the draft, but they keep hitting on Elijah Mitchell. They keep hitting on J.P. Mason. They keep hitting on Raheem Mostert. They keep hitting on Jeff Wilson. They keep hitting on Kevin Givens. They keep, you know what I'm saying? So how about this? Give up first, give up the high second, get into the middle of the second, trade back, get 5 to 7 extra picks in the mid rounds for doing so, and see if you can hit at a high enough rate where you can build a young, talented roster that has a bunch of guys that are all roughly at the same point in their career, kind of the way the Dallas Cowboys did with the Herschel trade, where they got like 7 draft picks and all kinds of players. And all of a sudden they made all these picks, and then they had a bunch of guys that were all roughly the same age. And you had this core of a dynasty, and sure enough, they won three times in 5 years or 3 times in 4 years or whatever it was. So that would be my plan. Trade back. If you're going to sign free agents, go sign young free agents, 26-year-old, 27-year-old, no 32-year-old free agents. No, I know, Kyle Posey said Harrison Smith. No, nobody who's played their best football years ago and are just getting paid. No, trade back, kill it with volume, and try to have that same philosophy for like 2 or 3 years in a row, and then see what happens after 3 years in a row. Because when I looked at what Detroit got done in the first 3 rounds in 21, 22, and 23, they picked their entire team in those 3 drafts. They literally, every great player that the Lions have were taken in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Amon-Ra went in the 4th round. Everybody else, Branch, and you name it. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Brian Branch, all these guys. They're all first 3 round picks. Kirby Joseph. These guys all went in the first 3 rounds. So the Niners can't pick in the first round. So stop picking bad guys in the first round. Trade out of the first round. Trade out of the second round. Get into the 3rd round, and then have just 10 picks between the 3rd and the 5th round, and just see if you can go 10 for 10. And guess what? If you can go 10 for 10, you're going to be on top of the football world.
I mean, I agree. To a point, I agree, because this team, they got really old and they're losing a lot of players, 36, 38 expiring contracts.
Volume in the draft on the trade back. That would be my plan.
I think they need to get young 100%, because you need to stack talent. And one thing you said that I really like is getting free agents in their prime. Stop getting older guys that are past their prime. Because if you're going to get a free agent and pay somebody money, you want to make sure they're going to be able to be worth something and contribute to your team. When you get these 33, 34-year-old players, they're not going to really contribute as much as they once were in their career. So get some premium play. If you're going to pay for someone that you know is going to come in and make an impact. Because that's what the Chiefs do. How many times you sit there and you see, oh, breaking news, the Chiefs have signed, and you're like, well, how did the league let him go to this team? You know what I mean? So go get some really good young 28, 29-year-old free agents that are in their prime, because that's how you're going to compete with these top teams like the Chiefs. And I like the fact of getting younger, but at the same time, you can't hit on every draft. If you
can't hit on every pick, you can't. You're not going to hit on every pick, but kill it with volume on the trade back, because Mahomes is not going anywhere. He's in the super prime of his career, and he will be probably for another 3 years. And since Reed's 49 wins away from John Shula, he's probably going to coach 5 more years. And so that makes sense. He's going to coach 5 more years until Mahomes is 34, and Mahomes is going to probably win 2 or 3 more rings in that period of time. So if you're the 49ers and you want to disrupt this unbelievable dynasty, I outside of stealing Spags away, which would be great, but I don't think it's doable. I think if you're actually going to do it on your own accord, you're going to have to just, instead of taking first round, basically what the Niners are doing, they're taking first round picks and they're getting 3rd round value or no value out of their first round pick. What they need to do is they need to trade that first round pick into the third round for multiple third round picks, and then they need to find first round value in the third round instead of turning their first round pick into a third round value. They need to literally do the opposite. Ricky Pearsall is like a third round pick. They took him in the first round. No more of that. Trade out of the first round into the third round and find guys in the third round that should have gone in the first round, not the opposite.
Yeah, because they're so bad at drafting in the first round. The chat listed out the piece. Solomon Thomas, Ruben Frost, Javon Kill. Are you kidding me? Some of these first round picks were terrible. Mike McGlinchey. This man, did you see Mike McGlinchey at the playoff game this weekend? He was practicing his stance in the middle of a fucking game. What are you doing? And we drafted him with the 9th pick. So I agree.
Yeah. Once again, no more. I mean, that's a good example too, Raj. No more low ceiling guys.
Yeah.
Don't take a right tackle with the 9th pick in the draft. Okay. Good, Do not. If a guy can't play left tackle, don't use a top 10 pick on him. They've done that. They've done that a few times. They've taken kind of, guys that are, decent players, but they've taken them too high. And then they've also whiffed. Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis. I mean, you name it. We could go right down the list. They've whiffed 20 times in the first 3 rounds under this regime. They've missed 12 times in the first 3 rounds in just 21, 22, and 23 drafts combined. You can't miss 12 picks in the first 3 rounds in a 3 draft period and not feel it. The Niners did miss on all those picks, and that's why they're not in the playoffs. And if they want to get off the canvas, they're going to have to reverse this. They're going to have to take their first round pick, trade it for 3 third round picks, and then hit on all 3 third round picks like their first rounders.
Yeah.
But
for the Niners, this is the thing, because they have to, even if you get all these draft picks, like you're saying, which I don't disagree with you.
Got to hit.
If they got these drafts, they got to make them hit, because this last year they did a great job drafting. Okay. Right. Maybe the new scouts they brought in were better or just did things differently, because we all loved Adam Peters and he would hit late round, like 5th round picks. They didn't have them. Whatever they did this year, it worked, because even if you trade up those picks, you got to hit. But to me, it's like, why are you missing on your first round pick? These first round picks, Larry, this is somewhere where the best talent in the NFL could be. You can have home run players if you just know how to draft a first round pick, because there's some quality players. Obviously, people miss and people fall through the cracks, and that's why you get these mid-round, late-round steals. But holy smack, if the 49ers were actually good at talent scouting in the first round, we wouldn't even need to have this conversation. So regardless is if you trade back or if you get first-round picks, bottom line is you have to hit on your draft picks, and that's what's really hurt the Niners, is not landing your draft picks. They could have had all the picks in the world, but if they didn't hit on them, look at the players that Trey Sermon, even in the mid rounds, because it's not just the first rounds. They've missed mid-round picks.
Third round whiff. That's a third round whiff right there.
Jake Moody. I mean,
okay, and that's another one too. No more kickers.
No more bad picks, and
no more punters.
Larry, stay away from injury prone play. Don't draft an injured player. They do that all the time. And don't go and get a free agent that has a history of injuries. Stay away from injuries, period. Please stop it. Can't.
I watch the Eagles and I see Jalen Hurts, and I know he's not as good as Brock Purdy. But guess what? He's playing a totally different game. He's lining up behind a monster offensive line. He's handing the ball to Saquon Barkley. They're getting to 3rd and 4, and they're handing it to Barkley, and he's getting down to a 4th and 1, and then they're tush pushing it. It's amazing. I mean, they literally were in the Niners spot a year ago. They lose the Super Bowl. They had a terrible Super Bowl hangover, got bounced in the first round, dumped the OC, dumped the DC, brought in Mekhi Becton. That's another one too. It's like, build a big physical fortress of an offensive line around Brock Purdy. Stop. When was the last time you saw the 49ers run somebody off the field? When was the last time the 49ers finished a game that they won on offense? I mean, it's almost hard to picture it because it doesn't happen. What happens is even in games where the 49ers lead in the fourth quarter, when everybody knows they have to run or they're trying to run the game out, run the clock out, the Niners run, they get stuffed, and then they put their defense back out there. And that's what happens with the 49ers repeatedly. They cannot finish games on offense. Build yourself a big physical offensive line, get yourself a big physical running back, and run the ball in the low red zone. Run the ball on 2nd and goal from the 4. Run the ball on 3rd and goal from the 4. Come on.
Trenches. Build those trenches.
Val Ramos says, I always love these people that come back with these comments that I supposedly made from yesteryear. Larry, you said Barkley was injury prone and you didn't want him. Come on. Never said that. Absolutely never said that. Val, you show me where I said that I didn't want Saquon Barkley. I mean, come on. That is just a bold-faced lie. I don't even know why you'd make that up. I would never say anything like that. Seriously, I said that Saquon Barkley was injury prone. What injuries did he even have? I can't even think of the injuries that he had.
Didn't he tear his hamstring? Didn't he have a hamstring tear or something like that? He had a pretty bad injury. He missed a lot of time.
Played pretty consistently. He's played pretty good in his career. And I definitely did not say he was injury prone and didn't want him. I definitely did not say that. And Val Ramos, why would you even say that? Why would you even bring that up? Because you know that's bullshit. Frank Tom Ocean says, love these Tuesday shows with Raj. Shout out, boys. Thank you, Frank Tom Ocean. Space Cowboy, what about Cameron Bynum or Marcus Williams? What about him?
What about him? We talking about free safeties? Isn't Marcus Williams the guy who took the bad angle on the Minnesota Diggs touchdown on the sideline? That was him. Oh, wow.
Remember that one? Where
Nice.
Minnesota beat, was it New Orleans? A few years ago. Cam Bynum went to Cal. I love Cam Bynum. He'd be nice. Derek says, what player would be worth trading the 11th pick for? That's what I'm saying. Do not trade the 11th pick for any don't trade up, and no more trades for veterans. Trade back. Show me that you know the draft. I know the draft. Show me that you got somebody down there that knows the draft.
What if they do this, Larry? What if they do this? What if they take pick 11 and a future first-round pick, and they trade it for Myles Garrett?
No.
Said no.
No, because that's not what. Because so what? So you can have really good defensive line and horrendous rest of your team. Myles Garrett makes a lot of money. They're hugged up against the cap. They can't. The Niners can no longer do the one player. No more one draft. No more trading up for one player. No more signing one player. No more Hargrave. No. There are no shortcuts. There will be no shortcuts. You have to go in there and be better than the other teams in the league. You got to be able to find a 5th round guy. No shortcuts. I mean, I like the idea of Myles Garrett. Don't get me wrong. I love Myles Garrett. But I just know between what they would pay in picks and pay in salary that you're not going to be able to build that whole 53-man roster. And that's what's ultimately, I think, going to get it.
Stuck with your take. I'm proud of you, Larry. That's why I'm proud of that.
There you go. Aye. John Muniz says Aaron Rodgers and trenches. Just saying. Aaron Rodgers, no. Aaron Rodgers probably needs to retire. John Muniz comes back. How can they sign players after signing Brock? Don't pay Brock $60 million. See if you can pay Brock under 50, 50 million or 50 to 55, I think is probably what Brock deserves. I mean, let's just say this. Philly's got a pretty good roster and they're paying their quarterback $50 million. So it's not like it can't be done. But you know what it means? It means that you're going to have to be good in the draft. It means you're going to have to hit at a higher rate than you're hitting right now. KR says, leave Levi's. The place is cursed. We need the San Francisco Particles for another Super Bowl win. Bring back Eddie D. Love the Eddie chant. Great content, guys. I don't understand I don't get the people that are so passionate about being angry about Levi's. I don't get it.
We love the Candlestick. The Niner fans are passionate about Candlestick.
Candlestick sucked, guys. Candlestick
It's
sucked.
the memory. It's the vibes, Larry. There's you
So
rip the
what?
memory.
Vibes? It sucked. There was no vibes there until I grew up in San Francisco my entire life. I mean, you walk by that place in 1980, there was no good vibes. The vibes all came from 81 on.
Okay, it smelled like pee, but it was still
It was awful.
fantastic. It's just the memories that are infused with the team. And until the
You know
Niners,
what my memory is? I'm gonna give you my memory. My final day there. Final day there. I'll never forget this like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Navarro Bowman ran right by me after
Yeah.
the pick six. Niners beat the Falcons. I go into the locker room. I do my interviews. I go upstairs. I do the post-game show. I'm now walking out to my car with Tanika Smothers, who is the one of the producers at KMBR. We're going down the escalator, and it was no longer working. So we're walking down the escalator, and then she screamed. And I'm like, what? What? Tanika, what happened? And she points down the escalator, and there's two raccoons running up the escalator at us.
You can't recreate that. That's amazing memories. You see the story you just told it. The memories. The fans love the memories. Until the Niners win a Super Bowl at Levi's, they're going to keep bringing it up because we have the Super Bowl memories at Candlestick. We don't have that in Levi's until next
Levi's
season.
Is so much better, man. Levi's is so clean and nice.
You know what, man? Listen, it looks pretty because
fine.
It's a modern stadium. I've been to a lot of these new stadiums.
Yeah, you know better than me.
Levi's,
it's not SoFi, but SoFi was like 3 times more expensive.
I don't really like SoFi much, but
you don't like SoFi?
I like some of these other stadiums. I'm telling you, man, there's some really nice stadiums out there, and arenas I've been to. But Levi's.
What's your favorite? What's the best stadium out there you've been to?
Actually, it's not a new one. It's Lambeau Field. Lambeau was mind blowing, man. That place was amazing.
Why was it so great?
It's just you can feel the history, man, and it's like so you go to Green Bay, you go there. The whole town is built around it. Like it's easy to access. It's not hard to get out and part. Like everything is just built so you can go and watch football at the damn stadium. It's just amazing, man. The vibes were great, but I don't know. I like the atmosphere there. It was a great open stadium. Like it's not like you're sitting on a high tech seat, you're sitting on a bleacher, but just everything about the atmosphere was unbelievable there. So
are there backs to the bleachers?
No, it's just you're sitting on a metal bleacher.
No,
it's
metal bleacher.
But it's amazing, man. Like you just go in there.
You like that better than because you've been to Minnesota's brand new stadium, right?
That was beautiful. Like in terms of state of the art, like new, it's a beautiful stadium, but it just doesn't have the history. Like that's the other part. I'm like a nostalgic.
Well, that's a trade-off.
I mean, yeah, you get
that's a trade-off. I mean, the new stadiums are going to have the amenities, but not the history. I understand. I'll say this. I haven't been to Lambeau. I've been to Soldier, and I would say Soldier is my favorite. In Chicago, but it's not great or anything, but you do get that history vibe. But
the other thing about Levi's, Larry, like because you're up in the booth, I imagine there's no shade when it's hot. I almost had I think I've had a heat stroke multiple times at Levi's Stadium. That place when it's hot in the middle of the stuff like the early games this season. It's bad, man. The heat is just unbearable.
I don't even get it. I don't even understand why people would ever want to do that. What are you even seeing if you have the sun in your eyes in the upper deck?
Well, some people don't have a choice. You go to the game, and that's the tickets you get.
Yeah, but to me, it's like I'd rather watch it on TV. I think football's better on TV. To be honest, I think the couch experience has surpassed the stadium experience. I think because you're also. I mean, think about it this way: it's the only sport that the people watching on TV can tell the people who went what actually happened. Where usually if you're watching a Giants game, San Francisco Giants game, and I'm there and you're like, dude, and then the guy hit this ball in the corner. And I'm like, dude, I was there. I saw it. And like, you're not going to tell me anything because I was there and I saw it. But in football, the guy who's in the upper deck doesn't know as much as the guy sitting on his couch. The guy sitting on his couch has got replays and analysis, and
of course,
come on.
You see a little bit more when you're.
Yeah, you
but
see
when you
more.
go into the stadium, you're wanting the game day experience, the tailgates, the fans, the meetups. Like it's amazing. It's the vibes that you're going
it's awesome.
for. Like,
I love it. I love going to see the Niner fans in the
what
pregame.
I'm saying is, you go to Levi's and you're going to have a heat stroke if you're going to go there.
I hear you. But what's the solution there, Raj? I mean, don't have it in Santa Clara.
Go back to San Francisco. That's what everybody says.
Put a tarp on the top.
Throw it up.
Go back to San Francisco. And where are you going to build that? Where are you going to build that stadium in San Francisco?
Well, they probably won't, because that's why they got
exactly.
Now,
here's a good idea. Here's an idea. How about this? Future idea. This is a future idea. The next stadium, because the stadium's built. Obviously, it's going nowhere.
Yeah.
What do you think? The football stadium on a barge that moves.
Interesting. As long as it has a roof. Okay, whatever. You can put it wherever you want, Larry. Put a roof over that thing, because it's
Where's
hot.
the stadium today? Oh, it's down in the South Bay. It's it's down in the. You could move the stadium. The stadium's in the East Bay today.
That's kind of weird, but
I mean, it's weird, but it would be kind of cool too.
Put a roof on it and lower the beer prices. The beer in Levi's Stadium is crazy. It's like $23 for a beer. You don't even get buzzed on that.
$23. Have you been to a Warrior game?
Yeah, I know. They're about the same amount.
I got 3 tall boys for $57.50.
No way.
I said $57.50 for 3 beers?
Better than Levi's.
My God.
Yeah, they're expensive there.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Last time I went to a Warriors game on Christmas, I got a beer. It was $22. It's crazy.
It's like a crab sandwich at the Giants game.
$36.50.
$36.50.
Those are good, though.
They are good. We got this one from KR. He says, leave Levi's. Okay, we got that one. All right. They're not leaving Levi's. John Muniz, they can't run with 2 good old linemen. Yeah, that's part of the problem for sure, John. John says, Larry said we would make the playoffs this year. I did. That I did say.
I did.
I will own my bad takes, and that was one of them. Yeah, I thought 11-6. Didn't see the 6-11 coming. Was it 6 or 7? 6, right?
Yeah.
6, yeah. Anthony C says Dwight Clark on Candlestick. It was a dump, but it was our dump. Point being, Candlestick was full of magic.
That's right. It's our dump.
DC. Man, I love DC. Did
you
ever meet DC?
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
You did meet him?
I did.
Yeah.
Super cool, dude.
One of the coolest guys ever. You know, it's as a kid who grew up in the Sunset District, born in 1970. Think about it. I was 10 years old in 1980. Wow. I mean, that's kind of like your sports fandom apex. And Dwight Clark was the guy. Yeah. And then to grow up and to hang out with Dwight, golf with Dwight, go to games with Dwight, do events with Dwight, hang out, have a couple pops with Dwight, talk about the catch with Dwight, talking about the 90s or the 80s Niners with Dwight, talking about Eddie D and some of the fun they used to have. It was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's almost it's hard to even believe. And I just I really cherished the time that I got to spend with Dwight. I love Dwight. He was just such a cool dude. Just no other way to say it. Just a really, really cool dude. That was just, everybody liked him. And you know what? You know what he did, Raj? That was just an amazing thing. He carried all 4 Super Bowl rings around with him in a box because he knew the fans wanted to see them.
Oh, that's crazy.
Dude, I'm at a Giants game with him. He's in the KMBR suite. Yeah. And he says to me, and this was years ago. This is years and years ago. And I said, hey, Dwight, man, it's a pleasure meeting you. I'm Larry Krueger. He's like, Krug, you're Larry Krueger? I listen to you all the time. I love your show. I'm like, oh my God, dude. I go, I could die right now, Dwight. I mean, you literally just told me you love my show. You were my guy when I was 10. It's like amazing. So we're sitting there, and it's the 5th inning, the 6th inning, the 7th inning stretch. We're standing up. And I started asking him, I'm like, yeah, man, you still have you're not wearing those Super Bowl rings. Do you ever wear your Super Bowl rings? And he reached under his seat and grabbed the box.
Oh my God, that's
and
crazy.
Busted it out. He's like, "Oh, you want to see my Super Bowl rings? Here, Krug, open the box." I'm sitting there, I'm putting them on.
That's crazy.
Unbelievable.
That's
At a Giants game.
If I did that, I'd forget I'd lose them. I would not be able to do that every day. That's crazy.
I was making such a scene in the box that somebody from KMBR was like, "Dude, what's Krug? What's up? What's wrong?" And I'm like, Dwight brought his Super Bowl rings. Look at this. And I'm like taking pictures and I'm like holding them up. Dude.
That's awesome.
Dwight Clark was the man. Dwight Clark was the man. He was
legend.
I did an event with him and Brandon Crawford at Napa. And this was right about the time when he was diagnosed with ALS.
Yeah.
And those guys were signing Brandon would remember this too. Him and Dwight were signing all these footballs and baseballs, right? I mean, like tons, because they were giving them away. So I'm in the back room at this event, and we're just sitting back there and having a beer, and I'm sitting in this room, and they're just signing one after another for like an hour. And Dwight's like, yeah, Dwight's doing a lot of this. He's like, yeah, I've had a lot of weakness and a lot of problems with my hand. I'm not really sure what's wrong. And 3 weeks later, he got the diagnosis that, he had ALS, and that was the weakness in his hand. And it was shocking to me how quickly he deteriorated and died. And it was just so sad. But man, DC, if you're up there, brother,
we love you.
Love you, man.
That ALS is tough, man. That it progresses like wildfire. I've had patience with it, and it's the saddest thing, man. It's terrible.
Crazy. But DC, there is no better person than that guy. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Better for being the proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to, of course, Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Raj, what do you got cooking the rest of the week? Outside of being on KMBR on Friday at 6.
Yeah, we'll be on KMBR on Friday. Just same old. I got work, so just gonna be working around my schedule. Hopefully, I'll probably go live a couple times this week. Hopefully, we get some news so we can go live about that. But also, real quick before we leave, Larry, happy belated birthday! It was your birthday the other day, man. Happy birthday!
Double nickel, 55. Yeah, okay. Kev got me a really sweet iPad. Nice. So now I'm watching all kinds of film from on my iPad and. Had a great dinner with the family and just laid low, watched some football. So thank you, my man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody who's reached out to me in the last day or two saying happy birthday. So very cool. And I really do appreciate every single one of you guys. So thanks to everybody. Have a great night. Catch Raj with me on Friday. Tomorrow morning, I'm back on the stream at 9 a.m. with Damon Bruce on a Wednesday. We'll do more videos this week, and then catch me tomorrow night. JD's going to join me at 6:30, I believe, on Niners Nightly. Thursday night, what's his name? God, now his name's escaping me. Hold on. Let me get Ted Wynn. Ted Wynn is gonna. Ted's good. Ted watches a lot of film. Ted's gonna join us Thursday night. So JD tomorrow night, Ted Wynn on Thursday night. Raj will stop by on Friday night on Niners Nightly. Catch that. Don't miss that. That's 6 o'clock on KMBR, Monday through Friday. But that's going to do it for us. Fun stream. Thanks to everybody. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for supporting the Krug Show. Raj, good to see you. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get it.